Hi, Dinah here. A biological man dressed up as a woman is the spokesperson for Tampax? What the heck is going on? In a few short years, men have invaded and appropriated women's identities, opportunities, and positions in culture. They have managed to make the term transgender so sacred that all a man has to do is say, "I'm transgender," and he has access to women's locker rooms, showers, and bathrooms. If women object, they're demonized and canceled. By the way, we're not saying that the transgender male has to prove that he has physically transitioned or even dresses like a female. Nope. All a pedophile has to do is say the magic words, "I'm trans," and a world of naked little girls in the locker room of gyms and public pools are his to ogle. Compliments of your friendly YWCA. 17-year-old Rebecca Phillips testified at the Santee City Council. "As I was showering after my workout, I saw a naked male and was terrified. All I could think about was my 5-year-old sister who uses the Y." Rebecca was demonized, labeled a transphobe, and canceled. And her case went nowhere because California state law requires that this be allowed. The California politicians, in their wisdom, feel that they're protecting women, who, by the way, they can't even define, by saying that a man, if he's a registered sex offender, cannot go into a woman's facility, right? And who's going to ask? And really, how many pedophiles out there have a record? But back to the Tampax spokesman. If you watch him talk about it on Facebook, you're struck by his very obvious parody of a woman. He acts silly in a falsetto voice and says nonsense about how women love him, but men are terrified of him, and it must be the power that they're afraid of, or something like that. Not to be outdone, Dylan Mulvaney became a social media star by switching his stated gender from a male to a female. As a male, he was just another boring talking head on YouTube. But when he came out as a female, he was a sensation. He opened his first video masquerading as a woman saying, "Day 1 of being a girl, and I have already cried 3 times. I wrote a scathing email I did not send, and I ordered dresses online that I couldn't afford. And when someone asked me how I was, I said I'm fine when I wasn't fine. How did I do, ladies?" This was delivered in a high, syrupy voice. What he offered as his experience as a woman was unbelievably offensive to women. It was a caricature, a mockery of women. What if I went on social media and did a caricature of, say, an Asian man? I slanted my eyes and used an exaggerated accent for your entertainment, not to mention my 10 minutes of fame. Well, the cultural mafia actually pulled the old children's book about a duck named Ping and his encounters with people in China because it stereotyped Asians. Well, what about a caricature of a black person? Again, exaggerated, affected speech and focus on something insipid. We all know what happens to anyone who has done a blackface caricature in their past at a party, say. They get excoriated and canceled. What we're seeing, ladies, is the complete domination of males over females. If women are uncomfortable, the male just calls himself a female, and then he gets to humiliate and villainize her. She is told to shut up. Her feelings don't count. But even worse is the way trans men are stripping women of the very things that define us. We are now a person who menstruates. We don't breastfeed. We're chest feeders. We aren't mothers. We're birthing persons. Women are being forced to make these concessions. By the way, I don't see trans men, women who dress like men, telling men to change things about themselves. But women are asked to completely give up their identity of their womanhood. We have become nothing but random body parts and random bodily functions. Shoot, we no longer can even be defined in the English language. Where are the feminists? This madness has unleashed a plague on our teenage girls. Federal researchers released this data in February. Teen girls across the United States are engulfed in a growing wave of violence and trauma, showing increase in rape and sexual violence, as well as record levels of feeling sad or hopeless. Nearly 1 in 3 high school students reported in 2021 that they seriously considered suicide. 1 in 3, up nearly 60% from a decade ago. According to new findings from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Kathleen Ather, director of CDC's Division of Adolescent and School Health, said the rise of sexual violence almost certainly contributed to the glaring spike of depressive symptoms. We were really alarmed, she said. Yet the trans movement has pushed ludicrous, sexualized, perverted ideology in schools across the country. And this movement has been the conduit for the most vile, disgusting, pornographic curriculum and books being vomited on our children in our schools from kindergarten on up. You can't have it both ways. You can't break down every natural inhibition and destroy a moral framework in youth and not expect sexual violence. And of course, women and children are the victims. This doesn't even touch on what's happening in women's sports. Swimmer Riley Gaines has come out publicly to fight the injustice. She said, quote, "We all sat on the sidelines as Leah Thomas became the fastest female swimmer in the country. When I swam against Leah Thomas in the 200 meter, crazily enough, we tied. When Riley questioned why Leah got the award and recognition, she was told it was for photo purposes. Not only were we being forced to compete against a man, a 6'4" man, we were being forced to change in the locker room with a man. We were sidelined for the feelings of a man. We are seeing all-out war on God's biblical framework within which women and children are protected. What do? Well, women, we must push back. It starts by not calling a man who dresses like a woman she. We can't be gaslighted and silenced. We must teach our daughters and our granddaughters to push back. We're in a place right now where we must have the conversation with our girls of what to do if they're in a bathroom or a locker room and a man comes in. The days of being quiet and nice are over. They need to raise their voice and be heard. This isn't a call to be nasty or ugly. It's a call to speak truth with boldness. Because ladies, if we are being canceled and made irrelevant, who's going to speak out for us? Who's going to defend us? If we don't do this for ourselves, no one else will.